for the introduction. Thanks for all the members in attendance, and of course, to the Beverly Hills Bar Association for having me spend some time with you to talk about the budget planning and technology strategic planning. For those that haven't been on some of these webinars in the past, my name is Michael Ubaldini. I'm the Director of Business Development, Sales, and Marketing at Strategic Technology Solutions. You'll hear me refer to us as STS for short moving forward. But about STS, for those that aren't aware of us and those of you that don't know us, we are an outsourced IT managed services company. We specialize in cybersecurity, managed IT, and cloud services. We've been providing these types of services and doing technology consulting for 20 years, over 20 years now. Combined, the three of us that head up on the sales and marketing side of the business have about 60 plus years of working with law firms strictly in technology, from hardware, software, and IT consulting and services. STS is one of the few MSPs out there that hold an SSAE SOC 2 Type 2 cybersecurity certification. We'll touch on some of the importance of cybersecurity as we move through this. We've also been recognized as one of the top MSPs in the world for 4 years in a row. Hopefully we'll get that here too in 2023. And we are the IT service provider of the Beverly Hills Bar Association. And there, I'm seeing some chats come up, and please feel free to put any questions you have in the chat or the Q&A. We're gonna hold off on addressing those questions to the end of the seminar. But please feel free to add anything, and we'll make sure we hit on them towards the end of the presentation. So, talking about budgets, and you may have read that initial paragraph that I had on the first slide, or saw the description of today's seminar in the description that went out a couple times. And you know, being involved with law firms and doing IT services or providing IT services for law firms as long as I have, that 50% number of firms that have budget, I might argue that a little bit. I think it might be under that number. And at least from my perspective and some of the firms that I've worked with over the years, and the marketplace that we consider targets for us is between 10, 15 users up to about 100 users. So that's small, medium-sized type of law firm. And what I've seen traditionally over the years, is that it's not necessarily firms that go out and each year go through a budget process towards that fourth quarter, October, November, December. Most of the times when it comes to technology investments, it's driven by some type of problem. Usually something broke, technology broke, something's not working, or performance. The IT company, for example, might be not performing to a certain standard. So you want to make a change. You want to reinvest that money or invest your technology dollars somewhere else. What we traditionally see happening, for example, if you want to implement a document management system or upgrade a document management system or practice management system, it's because it's broke, or it's because it's outdated, or it's archaic. So there's an initiative that's started by the firm to go out and evaluate providers in that space, whatever that space may be, and go through that evaluation process, come back to the board, come back to management, and say, hey, these are the 3 organizations we want to move forward with. This is the cost, this is the budget, this is what it's going to, the investment's going to be over the course of X number of months or years, and then it's approved. So that had been traditionally what we've had been seeing over the years, and this is going on for 10, 15 years now. And even today, it still happens where we go into a firm and there's not truly a budget plan in place, or really a strategic, what we call a strategic technology roadmap in place. And what we mean by that is when we go into firms and what we want to truly understand from the firm, from a business perspective, who is it that firm wants to be 12 months, 24 months, 36 months down the road? What does that look like to the firm? And what have they been investing in technology over the course of the last 12, 24, 36 months? And really developing what it is the foundation looks like today. So going back 12 to 36 months to see where you invested as a law firm in your technology, and where are you at today? Is it working? Is what we have today, has it worked? Has the investments in technology worked for us today to support today? And if the answer is yes, that's great. But if the answer is no, we have to figure out collectively where those gaps are, where those holes are, and more importantly, how does it match or map, I should say, to that strategic vision? Can what the firm have today from a technology perspective to sustain the growth that you're looking to do or looking to become from a firm perspective, from a business perspective? Are those aligned? So when we go into firms, a lot of that tends to be missing. There's many times where we sit down with a firm and the first thing out of their mouth is, well, we don't necessarily know what we don't know. And I would love to be sitting with all you folks face to face, because I would probably see some head shaking, because that's something we hear often, that firms just don't know what they don't know from a technology perspective. They believe and have faith that it's working, it's secure, they're protected, and the system's performing at a high level. But in many cases, it's not going to be sustainable moving forward. So what we're trying to do here is yeah, we're talking about money, but we're talking about the whole process of sitting down and going through that strategic process of identifying who it is the firm wants to be in the future, and understanding if you have the technology infrastructure, the people, processes, tools in place to help you sustain and have that growth. I'll switch slides here and move forward and talking about this year, and not sure how many folks on this are familiar with what's going on in the cybersecurity world, but you probably all know that law firms are becoming a more and more high-level target for threat actors out there and criminals out there. You have very sensitive data, not only your data, but your client's data. So you are becoming a high-value target. In addition to that, going out there and getting cyber insurance and the mandates that are coming across, you see it in California, you see it in New York, it's going to be nationwide. So when you receive an assessment or an audit from a client, depending on what type of law you practice, and many of our clients get these on at least an annual basis, where you're going to have to go through and basically prove that you are doing what you say you are doing from a cybersecurity perspective. So one, you could get cyber insurance, or two, you could keep the clients that you currently have, because if you're not going through these processes, if you're not implementing the cybersecurity tools and controls necessary, these clients and these insurers aren't gonna do business with you. So what we're seeing, and these stats really have changed over the course of the last probably 6 months, leading into the last half of last year. We saw that a lot of firms were determining not to really increase their technology investments coming into 2023. But as firms became more aware and became more educated on how much they are at risk and how much they can be exposed from a cybersecurity perspective, those firms that have decided to increase their budget are typically, what we're seeing, typically increasing their budget around further securing their environment, going through security maturity level assessments and IT assessment to really get an understanding where they're at risk, where they're exposed. And this is helping develop that strategic plan. This is helping develop that technology roadmap and budget heading into 2023 and the subsequent years. This is a question that we've been asked, that I've been asked quite a bit, and again, my answer to the question is yes, but it also depends on the firm culture, the firm size, the type of law you practice. You know, there's been that traditional culture with firms over the years that if it's not broke, don't fix it, and it's been, technology has been viewed as more of an expense rather than something to leverage, like a strategic initiative or a strategic investment to leverage to help the business grow. I was on a podcast, I think it was 2 weeks ago, around technology, and the guest who was doing the interviewee said, well, all businesses are technology businesses these days. And that kind of resonated with me a little bit, especially being in technology as long as I have. But as far as our marketplace, law firms, and you think about that for a second, are law firms technology businesses? Well, my question to you folks on the seminar is, if you didn't have technology, if you did not invest in technology, would you be able to practice law? I don't know if that's an actual, if you can. I mean, we leverage today, in this day and age, we leverage technology, excuse me, so much. It's hard to argue that all businesses are technology businesses. You folks are law firms delivering legal services, but your foundation is really built on technology. It has to be to operate. So that goes back to the point before. If you pull out the money side of it, or the math side of it, this is more than just trying to figure out how much are you going to invest. It's really helping, going through this type of this budget, or this strategic technology budget process, is really helping the firm get clarity and understanding on where they sit right now from a foundational perspective on their technology. Are we still viewing it as an expense, or is it truly an investment? Do we understand what our current state is? Do we understand where the risk is, where the exposure, and what we need to do to fill those gaps to help support us today, and then help support our firm growth moving forward? Again, that's helping identify who it is you want to be and how you're going to leverage technology to align with that growth, that vision, if you will. And it helps, I mean, look at it from a personal perspective as far as how we leverage technology. It's the same for a law firm. Streamline processes, enhance the workflow, more efficient. You're able to bill more, you become more effective. And the investment in technology, fortunately or unfortunately, depending on how you look at it, is going to consistently evolve. It's going to consistently change. Not just with cybersecurity in mind, it's just with every piece of technology that you folks are using, your practice management, your document management. If you folks are or Microsoft are running on all Microsoft applications, the technology continues to get better and better and better. I was at a conference last week. They were talking about the Chat GPT. They were talking about artificial intelligence and machine learning, and how firms are starting to implement and adopt these types of technologies moving forward. So it's going to continue to evolve, and it's going to continue to change, and your needs are going to continue to change, and your needs are going to continue to evolve, as well as your clients' needs. And a lot of this is being driven by clients, right? So being able to truly understand where you're at today, what you have today, who you want to be tomorrow, and being able to align those is really, really helpful in not just understanding the strategic plan roadmap for the firm, but how much you need to invest into to help operate it from a technology perspective. There's a reason why this looks the way it does, because I want it to look kind of confusing and messy, because many times it is from technology. And this isn't just within the legal community, this is with technology in general and many businesses. It can be very, very messy. When it comes to law firm technology, I think there's a number of different added components that can make it even more complex. And the reason being is because many of these areas of technology integrate and touch one another. If we go back to the beginning, when we had mentioned migrating to a new document management system, or implementing a new practice management system, this is where we see a lot of the problems happen down the road when we go into a firm and we start looking at and start consulting with them and working with them. Where we see the biggest mistake, or I should say that the biggest disconnect, is that all these areas weren't evaluated when that technology change was happening. So for example, if you take into consideration, hey, we want to migrate from a document management system to a new document management system, okay, you're investing in a software application. where is that software application going to reside? What is it going to reside on? Is it going to be in a cloud? Is it going to be on infrastructure on your four walls? Is it going to be hosted somewhere in a data center? Is that hardware compliant and compatible with the application? So these are two components that really need to be evaluated, and vice versa. If you're updating hardware, is that hardware you're upgrading going to be able to be compatible with the software that was residing on it? What about the networking infrastructure? Your switches, your routers, your bandwidth, your firewalls, all that area, do those need to be upgraded? And are they going to support the technology changes that are going to be happening, that are going to be implemented? Training, when you're upgrading a new application, are you going from version 1 to version 6? And is there going to be that much of a difference from the end user's perspective? So there's additional dollars that need to be not only invested in training the employees and training the users, but also training the technical support people. Are they going to be able to support the application and support the configuration that it's running and residing on as we move this forward? And the last component, and probably the most critical component to this day and age, is cybersecurity. When you're upgrading these applications or making these technology changes, are you creating more risk? Are you opening up more holes, if you will, or gaps for these threat actors and these excuse me, and these criminals to get access to your data? So it's as I mentioned leading into this slide, it could be incredibly complex, and there's a lot of different areas to evaluate, to look at, and to take into consideration as you're looking to make these technology changes, as you're looking to make these technology investments to align with that business vision of the firm. Some best practices and things, and we touched on a few of these throughout the last 20 minutes going through this. But what are some best practices? What are some of the things that we could be doing collectively to start building this out, to start kind of formulating or forming this IT roadmap process and being able to align it with budgets? The first one is start working on it. You know, and it's as I mentioned, it's less about the math and more about the process and putting into place. Again, going back to that, being able to find out what you don't know. Is there someone that has an understanding of, and can you even get access to information over the course of the last 3 years? That's what we tend to look at, 3 years back, 3 years forward. Can you grasp and understand what your technology investments had been for the last 3? An easier thing really on this point is the technology working? Is it helping the employees, helping the users effectively and efficiently conduct their responsibilities in business? That's the communication process. People are going to let you know what their pain points are. People are going to let you know what is working too, and that's going to help maybe filter out some of the gaps or validate some of the areas where the technology investments have been successful. Again, going back to who is it that we want to be moving forward? Do we believe what we have today and the investments we've made today are going to sustain our growth in the future? If not, what changes and what other technology investments do we need to make? Do we need to upgrade our infrastructure, our hardware, our servers? Do we need additional applications or updated applications? Do we need more help from a cybersecurity perspective to ensure that our data and our sensitive information is protected? What are we actually spending? This is what we could all collectively get our arms around to help the community start further understanding and further getting clarity on what their vision might look like and what the technology investments need to be to help map to that vision. I have a client case study here in parentheses that I certainly could share the numbers with you. It was last year we were working with a potential client. They weren't even a client at this point, just helping them evaluate again what is it that they had. This was a 35 user firm, so I could share some numbers with you that that might give you a little bit of an understanding of what some firms are spending. And this is right around the baseline, I think, for a per user per month type of investment. But when we went in there and actually got our hands under the covers and under the hood, if you will, they had been communicating to us that they were spending $3,000 a month. After we were able to really understand what their environment looked like and what their spend actually looked like, it was really double that. They were spending about 6,000 versus the 3,000. So, that was probably a very hard pill to swallow because were they getting the value, that $6,000 value? Probably not, because that's probably why we were there. But it got them clarity. It got them really understanding what were the investments they had been making over the course of the last 3 years. What did they get in return from a technology investment perspective? And they started becoming clear and knowledgeable on, okay, that's not working. We need to be better. We need to make better investments to help align this IT infrastructure, this IT environment with our ongoing strategy. And leading into that is the last line item there. It says get a security maturity level assessment. And that's kind of what I'm talking here, which helps with that developing or understanding that foundation. Many of our clients, many of the firms out there typically go through some type of technology security maturity assessment on an annual basis. And that's what helps create that strategic IT roadmap and budget leading into the next year. It's something that's collectively done on an annual basis. And some firms actually revisit it on a quarterly basis just to make sure that things are lining up, that things are in line with where they want to go. And as we touched on before, that's consistently changing. Technology is consistently changing, but being able to put yourself in a position, right, that you understand where you're at, what your foundation is, and how you're going to be moving forward, having this type of strategic plan in place gives you the opportunity to be a bit more nimble, right? You have an understanding of what you're spending. You have an understanding of what's working and what's not working, and where the investment dollars need to go to make sure it works. And if you're evaluating and reevaluating on a consistent basis, you have the ability to say, okay, we need to pivot. This isn't working, whether it's an application, whether it's a piece of hardware, whether it's a potential, an employee, or some processes that you really have to reevaluate. Having this type of planning in place and understanding in place helps you become more nimble. And that's going back to the value of the IT assessments. We just touched on it, but just for those that might not know, it's looking at everything. And I touched on it a little bit. These IT assessments go into the true ones go into detail, not only looking at your technology, your hardware, software, your networking environment, but what is your training policies and procedures? What are your best practices that you've implemented? Is everything configured the appropriate way and implemented to the appropriate way? Are you protected? What does your cybersecurity posture look like? And what it's going to pull out, these assessments pull out where those gaps are and where your risk is. And then it gives you the understanding, it gives you tangible evidence actually of where you're sitting right now and what you should or may want to do moving forward. We work with a lot of firms that we go through an assessment such as this and they don't do anything with it, but at least they know. They know based on tangible facts and evidence that they have a clear understanding of where they're at, what's working, what's not working, what's the risk. So how do we get started? I touched on it. Find somebody that has that understanding. Some firms have CFOs, COOs, accounting folks, administrators, office managers. Some firms, it's some of the partners that are having to do with it. But being able to understand what those investments have been over the last 12 to 36 months, that's going to give you that basis, that foundation. Being able to really look at who and where do you want to go as a firm in the next three years, not only from a visionary perspective, but also realizing and understanding what that technology foundation looks like, and if that's going to sustain that growth, and what changes need to be made. It gives you that, it starts giving you that baseline, that process to thoroughly understand and develop a strategic technology roadmap and the investment dollars that are needed to go with it. And again, we're looking into usually 36 months because that's going to give you the best level of baseline data. So it's all about aligning. It's aligning the vision with the technology strategy. And the value of it, I mean, I don't think I need to articulate these. I think we believe what they are. You know, it gives you the ability to truly understand what your financial health is the investments that we're making in technology truly paying off? Are we able to understand what that alignment is, what our spending is from a technology perspective, having the ability to understand better financial and being able to better understand the financial investments in technology is going to help the firm make better strategic decisions moving forward. Again, it's that alignment, it's operational efficiencies, it's effectiveness, it's billable hours, it's just making the firm more productive and going through the budget planning process. Again, not necessarily just the numbers, but the entire budget planning process, creating that foundation, understanding what we look like today and seeing if it maps to who we want to be tomorrow. It's incredibly critical. It's incredibly critical to help the firm grow and move forward to stay relevant as the technology continues to evolve. So that is my last slide. So we ran pretty quickly here. So we have a lot of time for questions, or I could give you back part of your day. Kathleen, I don't know if we have any questions in the chat.
Not yet. If you want to, maybe we can hang out for another minute, see if anyone wants to drop any questions.
Sure. Yep, I got time, so.
And it looks like someone dropped a question in the chat. I don't know if you can, or in the Q&A. This question is from Sheila. How would you suggest that a solo practice plan appropriately, suggest a solo practice plan appropriate for IT?
Right, a solo practitioner budgeting and planning for technology. Sheila, it's not, I wouldn't give you any different advice than what we shared. It's really being able to get a grasp on what your technology investments had been, and as a solo, they probably haven't been much. It's all perspective, right? But the other question is, is what you're using working? Do you feel that you're getting the best performance out of your technology, or is it preventing you from operating your business as efficiently and effectively as possible? If that's not the case, then there's resources out there to help work with you to understand where did you make those investments? What is it that you're currently running on? What are the application sets? As far as what is it, the revenue that you're bringing in, and is it in alignment? And if it's not, then there's further detailed discussions to have with respect to, okay, well, we don't have what we want. We've invested this money, didn't get the value out of it. Where do we need to start going in what direction do we need to start going in? So again, my response to your question wouldn't change based upon the information that I've already shared, going through that same process. Hopefully that helps. I'm just looking at some of these other questions here. If I have an unlimited budget, what solution makes sense? As you move to lower realistic budget, what do you give up as compared to that unlimited budget? Well, I mean, that's a hard question for me to answer, Mark. I mean, if you have an unlimited budget, what solution makes sense? A solution for what? From my perspective and what I would recommend, the first thing you need to do is be going through those assessments on an annual basis. Those assessments are going to be able to really identify where you sit today and where your gaps are and help you identify what is working and what's not working. Whether you have an unlimited budget or a lower or realistic budget, those assessments typically can be very, very, I'm not going to say cheap, but they're affordable, where it's going to give you that tangible, incredibly important evidence for you to understand exactly where you are and whether or not it's working. You probably all have a solid, you probably have a good feeling of whether or not your technology is working or not working as of today. There might be instances where things aren't ideal, but for the most part, what I would assume, and this might be wrong for me assuming, but I talk to a lot of law firms, but I think for the most part, it's probably working. It's probably working. Now, are you in the best position to be protected? Are you most secure? Can you be better? Yes, of course, we can all be better. My question is, do you really have a firm belief that you are in the best environment, and you believe the technology environment that you're in is mapped and aligned with where and who you want to be as a firm? That's usually where we see the separation. And the answers at the end of the day is, no, we need to make these investments in technology because we want to be here. What resources do you recommend to review that are out there? Max, there was a number of different links in this PowerPoint that I could send out. I could send to Kathleen and we could distribute it to the group, to the membership. But there's a number of technology resources that I linked up in there that are reports from law.com, International Legal Technology Association, and some other technology resources. What resources, meaning what websites? Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Is that it? You're welcome, Max. You're welcome, Sheila. Thank you. Not seeing any more, Kathleen.
Okay. Yeah, that's fine. And for everyone listening, we will make sure to get a copy of these slides to you shortly, later today or first thing tomorrow. So you'll get that in an email. But yeah, thank you so much, Mike, for your time. We really, really appreciate it.
Thanks, everybody. I appreciate you tuning in.